in Europe that was really well connected to the home office, and that also had a lot of experience and understood how Foot Locker runs their business. So I kind of fit the bill, and I moved to Amsterdam for 4 years and handled the Foot Locker European business, and also a couple of other, that transitioned into some other European sales roles. Came back, continued with Reebok after the 4 years, and finally that ran its course. Reebok, sales were kind of dying. This was before Adidas bought them, if you keep track of those type of things. Got laid off and went and did some consulting. So I consulted at a company called The First Years. Has anybody heard of that one? Probably you don't probably have kids yet, or maybe someone does, but they make juvenile products, sippy cups and bathtubs and things like that. I knew nothing about it. I have no children, but I knew marketing, and I wanted to learn some new things. So it was a great experience for that, and it was also very flexible because I was consulting. I had some time, and something I'd always thought about was going back and getting a master's in business. So while I was doing that, I went back to UMass Boston and got an MBA. And around the time, I'm trying to get 34 years into 10 minutes, but it's not easy. So around the time I got the MBA, one of my prior bosses from Reebok was now the president of Saucony. Called me up, was looking for a vice president of marketing. And at that time I said, okay, I've been away from athletic footwear kind of long enough, and this was a different role from any that I'd had in the past. They were growing, it looked good. The company had a whole different profile by this time. So I went back to that role. Did that for a couple of years, and then they started to recognize the need for someone to focus on the international business, which we hadn't really paid enough attention to before. So for the last 2.5 years, I've been running the international business for Saucony. So we're here in Lexington, and the international business is a great opportunity, good growth. And I would say still that each of everything builds on each other, and that the associate's degree from Fisher was really a building block. So you could call it a crooked path, you could call it building blocks. Some people, the career will go straight up. You go to school to be an accountant, and you're an accountant. Didn't work out that way for me, but from each role, you learn, and you grow. And I sought out different roles where I thought I would get a different experience or see something new that I might like, and they all kind of connected, like you said. In the end, you can kind of put some logic together to the whole thing. So, hope that wasn't too long.
So, my name is Catalina Chu. I'm the controller of a real estate investment firm here in Boston now. I've been there, I think my anniversary is going to be in December, 4 years there. And I started out, I'm going to go back to like high school, because that's where it really is kind of funny how I went to school for arts. I was a dancer. I danced for probably about 10 years. Played the piano, the flute, and really was into fine arts. And I thought I was going to go to school to be a ballerina. And my parents go, no, I don't think so. And they asked me to decide, business management, finance, something in the business area, just to make sure that I'll be able to get a job once I graduate from school. And just to back up a little bit, I'm originally from New York. I moved to Massachusetts about probably 12 years ago. And I came to Massachusetts with an associate's degree, so I graduated with an associate's degree in New York. And I've always been within the business management, finance major, just because I'm a very practical person, just like she is. And I needed to know that I had a job at the end of the day. And so I've always been in some type of business role. I was working for Razorfish. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of Razorfish, but it's a company, it was a private company that was into they were doing website design solutions, and they were doing very well. They were very successful. I went through the IPO with them, and it was a lot of work. And let me see, and that was back in New York. And they no longer exist at this point because we went through the financial crisis, and they were a part of I don't want to say scandals, but
The internet
the
bubble that
internet
burst.
bubble that really that burst, and I think that was one of the bigger major companies that actually collapsed and filed for bankruptcy. But getting back to my career, I was a night student here at Fisher College, and I was in the business management major, and I took accounting. My focus was in accounting. I took a lot of classes off campus as well. So I took classes at Harvard, Bentley, and then one night I was in Bentley. I think I was a senior at the time, and I was getting ready to graduate, and I just got laid off from a job not too long ago. And PwC was there. For those of you that don't know PwC, it's one of the major accounting audit firms here in Boston, international. And I interviewed with one of the partners, and I got a job. And so when I graduated, I already had a job. And I did my public hours and my public experience with PwC, and it's not an easy job, I tell you. I mean, it's fun, you learn, you meet a lot of new people, you travel. Most of my clients were out in Pennsylvania. My major client was Stop and Shop. So I traveled to Pennsylvania every Thursday and every Sunday for about 2 to 3 years. And finally I decided that I have my public hours, and this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. It was basically working 80, 90 hours. It is for some people, but if you're not on the director or partner track, many people move on to private companies. And I have to say, PwC has definitely led to my success. It's given me exposure, it's given me experience, and for a person to work 80 to 90 hours a week, that's a lot to ask from someone. And I've built tolerance, patience, you have different clients. And I finally decided to move into the private industry. I was working with a recruiter at the time, and he found a position for me as an accounting manager, and it's in the real estate investment environment as well. So I really started my career with Northland Investment Corporation, which is based in Newton, Massachusetts, and they're in the real estate investment industry. And they have the residential as well as commercial side. And at the time, I didn't know whether real estate was my thing or kind of my niche. But real estate is just buildings, and especially the buildings that I was working with on the commercial side, it wasn't anything fun. It was buildings, buying buildings, invest, and but it's really when you understand and like something. Like, I enjoy accounting. It sounds very geeky, but I enjoy accounting, and I have a passion for it, and I also enjoy real estate. And so from there, at the time, there was this huge banking crisis that was taking place. Sovereign Bank was one of the banks that was kind of in question, whether it was going to stay afloat or whether it was going to be bought out or just close doors. And at the time, I was dealing with a lot of treasury and cash management, and I was responsible for over 100 semi-bank accounts for the company. We're talking millions and millions of dollars. And I was asked to make sure that in a heartbeat, within an hour, to be able to move millions and millions of dollars out of that bank, in case, we hear rumor that the bank is going to go under. And so that was one of my major challenges. It was definitely a challenge, an experience, and I was under fire, and so I was able to do all of that. And thank God the bank didn't go under. It got bought out by Santander. And at that time, the jobs within Northland wasn't very stable, and so we didn't know where it was going. And so my headhunter had contacted me, and it was one of those things that kind of popped out of the blue, and it was like, look at, there's this controller position that you might fit, and you might want to take the opportunity. And so I went on the interview. One of the funny things is one of my coworkers actually went on the same interview, and we didn't know it at the time. And so I finally got the job, and so I've been there since. And I'm in real estate investment, and I know currently the economy isn't that great. The outlook is kind of, floppy. We don't know where we're going, but my company is doing very well. We're actually in our fourth fund, raising money to about $500 million, and we constantly purchase and dispose of assets on a daily basis. And there's never a dull moment. I'm responsible for 11 joint venture fund audits, which we're starting now. And just because I'm in private, it doesn't mean that you don't put in the hours, but they're kind of spread out through the year, and so it's balanced. And during the summer, I enjoy my time with my little guy. I have a 6-year-old. And during the audit season, I could be in the office at 2 in the morning, working on financial statements and audits and work papers. But it really, I think it's paid off. My hours are very flexible. I am, a mother, so many times I get into work at about 9:30, but sometimes I get out of work at like 10 or 11. So, I have to say I have a great boss. I am one of the few that are very lucky. But just getting back to Fisher College, how I started, even back to high school, I wanted to be a ballerina. And today I'm here sitting, doing numbers and work papers, and but I enjoy it. I think that Fisher has allowed me to experience the different options that I've taken and done well with, and just being back here today kind of like is very emotional for me. So it's changed, this whole area is called the mall, and it's just so nice to be back and be able to kind of share my experience with you guys.
Thank you very much. Kathleen.
Hi, I'm Kathy, and I'm going to give you the 10-minute elevator pitch on my career and the crookedness of it all. I graduated in 1975 at Fisher. There were, it was all female then, there were no males sitting here. I chose Fisher because I think my personality has always been one that I never really knew exactly what I wanted to do. I knew what I didn't want to do, but I was always like, oh, this sounds good, that sounds good. I was always open to things. I knew that coming from a family, being an only child of a working class family who were really adamant that I was going to have a college career, I knew the best place for me would be to go to a small school where there was some intimacy and I felt like I was part of it and I could contribute. And that's really how I ended up at Fisher. I came here, I felt the warmth, and it was like, I'm home, I'm going to learn here, and then that'll take me to my next step. So I left, I graduated from Fisher, and then I went on to get my bachelor's degree at Suffolk University right up on Beacon Hill. And again, I graduated from college with not really knowing what I wanted to do. I knew I needed a job. At one point I wanted to be a psychologist, but I had no money to go get a master's degree. You couldn't get a master's degree unless you did some practical work. I needed money. At that time, New England was really starting the computer. The high-tech industry was really blossoming here. I found a job for a electronics distributor. I was hired there to do some customer service, and so I went to work there full time, and a lot of it, honestly, was timing, because I entered an industry that was growing, that needed people. It was young, it was vibrant, it was fun, and I grew. I ended up staying in that industry. I stayed on the sales side. I think probably looking back, if I look at my strengths, it was that I liked selling. I liked working with people. I liked interacting. I liked to win, find solutions. None of this, I knew that. It was just kind of, I was like going along. And I grew in the high-tech industry. I was in it for probably 20 years. but I was seeing it change, I was seeing it mature, I was seeing it evolve. And someone mentioned here back in 2002 was the